This is Anthony Beyonders from Mission Start Podcast. And before we start the show, I'd like to say that thank you for the support you have gave us thus far, making this site where it is today. But to keep this going, we need a bit of help. As much as we love, going to conventions and, talking about games and the podcast and everything we do, some of this stuff isn't easy for us to do. So we have a Patreon page you guys should check out. On our Patreon page, we have multiple tiers of rewards, goals, and other goodies you can get, including getting these like this podcast early in the week, right when the podcast ends. There's also other rewards as to being in the podcast with us, early access to videos and photos, and much more. But just want to let you know that we have a Patreon page at patreon.com/Mission Start Podcast. Definitely check it out, guys. Share the love, and we'll show you some love. Hello, everybody. This is Anthony. Be honest, I'm Conover. By the time you're listening to this, it'll be Friday. Right now, we're recording on this Sunday, the 3rd, the day of WrestleMania.
That Extra Life begins its summer season 2 days before people start gearing up and trying to kill each other to get hotel rooms for Comic-Con. There is a list of things.
Joining us, as you heard that voice, is Jeremy from the Rolling 20s.
Hello.
And now he has a high-pitched voice. So
well, this is what happens when you shut your nose down when you try and talk. Sorry.
You know. He's
gonna hate that.
God, shout out to G. So Jeremy, you were at WonderCon.
It was ending a week ago. This time, a week ago, it was 3 hours before they shut the doors and told everybody, "Okay, you've had your fun, GTFO."
WonderCon. Tell me, how was WonderCon this year?
It was surprisingly good. But with the sudden move to Los Angeles from last year to this year, there was a lot of concern, especially since, as those that have listened to the show, I have trouble with the building, I have trouble with the layout, I despise the staff because they're always rude, surly, and just generally looking for a fight for some reason. Comic-Con International seemed to understand the building. There was extra staff brought in, although I'm still unsure whether it was Comic-Con who brought their own security, rented extra staff for the weekend in an attempt to make WonderCon their pitch to get San Diego Comic-Con. Mm-hmm. People at San Diego Comic-Con, they were all very friendly, very knowledgeable. Even when they tell you no, they don't make you feel like they're talking down to you, which is
that's great to hear. I think that one of the things that I saw in one of the pictures you put out during your time there was they had or near.
No, they had it on the building.
Oh, on the building? Oh,
yeah,
wow.
there were two locations for food trucks. First of all, you know where Anime parking lot?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They put a segment of them out there on that island. Mm. So they were very close to the building. Well, so first good move. Anime Expo, the only other place they bring food trucks outside of in front of the South Hall, which is just crowded and uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. They sometimes use a freight elevator to bridge connecting the two halls. Mm. Comic-Con did not do that. Yes, they freighted them up there, but then they had them drive around the circumference of the West Hall.
Nice.
That's awesome. All you had to do was exit one of the side doors in the West Hall lobby, and all of a sudden, look, food.
I can imagine that the smell.
It was kind of funny because if you walk out of West Hall to those side doors, people are just kind of milling around doing what they do.
Nice. That's awesome, though. I love it. Oh man, anything to make it more convenient for cost. But
Comic-Con had a better understanding of this building than I'd say Kamikaze or Anime Expo really have ever had. Mm. The event they needed to do, but they still rented it and they used the extra space to put lines in.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
For autograph events, all of those were inside West Hall, where it was air conditioned and bright and breezy.
Smart. Yeah, but the same. Tend to have the lines outside of the building in the blistering heat.
Kamikaze doesn't, but all their lines tend to be in the hallways, which is WonderCon even went the extra mile to set aside some of the meeting rooms, not to hold panels, but to put lines for panels that have large amounts. Unless you were one of those people who showed up ungodly early for a particular thing, and then as soon as 7:30 rolled around, they opened up where your line was supposed to be and led you inside.
Registration for WonderCon wasn't was pretty smooth altogether.
From my perspective, yes, for me, but I didn't want to request a bunch of days off since I'm supposed to be going to Fanime, Anime Expo, and Comic-Con. You know, I got to be able to save my dates for 2 kids in tow, and I was in line a total of 3 minutes.
Wow, that's really good. Holy crap.
Yeah, it was not a big line. They were processing people relative. Talking to people that a couple times over the weekend, there was some kind of technical issue, and they weren't processing for about an hour at a time.
Interesting.
That appeared to have happened, I want to say Saturday. But I didn't directly view it, so I can only go by what I know. And the people I talked to are relative.
Interesting. But that was good to hear. From your perspective, the fact that administration was pretty smooth and not much of an issue. I want to bring up is like, what was the kind of atmosphere there at the convention? Like, was because I know like the news broke then, or was that?
That was the meanest thing that happened all weekend. That happened at 8 a.m. Friday morning before the convention technically opened. I remember my wife decided to drive us in. I went with the family. So as she's driving, I'm sitting there on my phone poking through the news, and I just I yell started.
Wow, that's funny.
You know, they didn't even wait to find out if it was a good weekend. They just said, "Oh, by the way, we're going back to Anaheim."
Like, I'm not sure if anybody else was kind of knowing that coming in, but what was the atmosphere of like the attendees and the staff?
Usually affable. The attendees though, they kind of took it in stride. They seem to be doing their best to have a good time, but often people were freaking weird, man.
So that was common knowledge prior to the convention that most people were talking about.
For the most part, I'd say 9 out of 10 people who just said, "What happened? I don't know."
Wow, that is great. Wow, awesome. So during that time.
Oh, absolutely. It suddenly got a round table of people like in most restaurants. They're eating dinner just going, "So, what do you think happened?" "Oh. Do you think maybe they just started making faces?" "That's possible." You know, but it's not like everything I heard was absolute. Who weren't guests at the convention. They had guests at their booths coming to do signature. One of them needed a wheelchair, and the convention center wouldn't supply it. The problem was that unless the booth was willing to pay like an hour and a half of minimum time at a union rate, they wouldn't bring it out. Rules, they weren't allowed to go back to special services and just get a wheelchair. A union person had to bring it out to them.
Huh. I didn't know there was
acrimony, at least between the exhibitors and the convention center staff.
Okay. So in the dealer hall, how like in particular with like I guess because when it comes to comic conventions, like usually it's like kind of all one thing, like sections of panel section as well. How was it? Was there anything different from this year than it was last year in that huge?
As far as layout, not really, I would say. The only difference is just the difference in the shape of the building. When you were DC Comics, who was like up in front and center when you walk into the frickin' hall. I would say that at the back of the hall for different games set up over the course of the weekend.
Cool.
Up on a board. So they were going to keep people busy that way. There was no video games that they brought. To the far right side of the hall was where Artist Alley was, and I usually at anime conventions I argue that Artist Alley should not be in the same high dollar items. In comic book conventions, I don't have the same outlook on that, typically because half of Artist Alley I met the artist for the current volume of The Mighty Thor with Jane Foster. I met the artist who is currently working on The Black Canary. You know, there's a bunch of actual names in there who were just doing their business in amongst other independent artists.
That aisle in the Artist Alley, because like you have your run-ins with a few of the artists at the Las Vegas Comic.
Barry Moore, totally. You know, I said hi, and he just had this huge smile on his face. And I just said, "How's it going?" You know, we had a short conversation. I didn't about it. One of my favorite artists, Daniel Chung. I have not formally interviewed him, but he and his wife know my face by now, and they listen to the Rolling 20s. I walk up to his booth to have a conversation. There was this short man who was just standing right in the middle of his booth talking to someone, and he was talking to somebody, and I was getting a little impatient because I had my daughter with me, and I wanted to talk to Daniel for a couple minutes and say hi, and and that was just irking me. But as he was talking to whoever this third party was, I noticed he started mentioning a day that he was hosting a panel, and I have half the schedule memorized of things I want to do over the course of the weekend. So I started to line up who this could possibly be, and all of a sudden I realized I'm the guy who created the new Avengers, the guy who rewrote the Avengers into something beyond just like a bunch of flag wavers.
That's so sick.
I'm the one pressing. This is a bad decision.
This was not what I was supposed to do. But that's cool though. Holy shit.
He started laughing himself stupid.
That's awesome. So you any comic books or anything of that nature?
I picked up a couple of variant covers to the Secret Brooks, who did multiple versions of Carol Danvers, the current Captain Marvel. I picked up a graphic novel to the Civil War, which Photobukia booth, and picked up one of their Art FX statues of the X-Men character Magic to try and complete a collection I'm working on.
Sick.
And to their people, the ones who invited us out for Great American Comic-Con.
Mm-hmm.
And, this was supposed to be Sunday. It was supposed to be a laid-back day. I was supposed to do a couple of things. You've got a couple of things. Oh, and if you have time later today, John Romita Jr. is going to be here. Do you want to talk to him?
Oh, shit.
And that's that moment where often someone's going to ask you this question.
That is a good point. That is a very, very good point. But that's
I'll actually give you a little audio because I took my hand recorder with me and I asked him 2 or 3 questions.
Sick. Wow. Were you? That's.
This was one of those blank spots because I'm a fan of John Romita Jr.'s history, not necessarily his, and there's no denying that he has a special place in comic book history. Mm-hmm. And there I am, like, waiting for him to finish some signatures so I can talk to him, and the own great questions, and everybody likes him. It's like, oh, great, now I have hype going in.
Wow.
Now I have to live up to hype. Talked to him a little bit, and he was very nice, and, they even God, while I was waiting, he even said, this is the guy who said he wanted the unsis. Oh, my God, what did I say? What did I say?
That is great. Oh, my God, that's awesome.
The owner of Celestial just kind of motions to me and asks me if I have anything for him to sign, and I shake my head. I wasn't planning on seeing John Romita Jr. this weekend. So the owner was nice enough to shove a comic book backboard right in front of Romita, and as I'm talking to him, he's scratching on it, and as soon as I finish the questions and shake his hand, he turns...
Oh, yeah, I saw that. That's sick. That's awesome. Yeah. Holy crap.
So that's what I have now.
Sick. Is that, like, framed in your house now?
One of those what do you call it, variant covers I bought during the weekend. It's currently sitting in the back of that, and every once in a while I flip it over.
Speaking of the attendees at WonderCon, I noticed some of the photos I noticed somebody, it was, what was her name? The Raven cosplayer.
Abby Normal. Yeah, I ran into her.
Yeah. So, like, in general, like, what were the cosplayers you saw during that weekend?
It was very relaxed. We went out to the Kensha Hall parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
And, the people around there saw us walking around, but unlike, sure we weren't going to touch anything. That's all.
Ah, gotcha.
So they were very nice about it. We went to a couple locations, and it was, it's a very talented cosplayer. But the only drawback, even though she makes an outstanding Raven, is that Raven is not exactly the most dynamic character. Place and throwing her arms in different directions, which it's not Abby's fault. So there's only a certain list of things you can do with the character as far as photos. Trying to find the best way to say that didn't sound like, you picked an ass character. Can I just say that?
Yeah.
One place with her feet together casting spells. That's kind of her thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or she's flying through the air, and that's really not something you can replicate very well without a bunch of green screen. But it was cool. I showed her some of the photos that I took, and she just said, it's great to watch you grow as an artist. It's like, I'm an artist? I thought...
Yeah, technically, you are an artist with a camera, so as long as you know what you're doing, then yeah, you are...
I suppose so, but to put it in context, when I first met her up on 8th Street, and we took photos, and after we were done, she and her friend just said, that was actually pretty good. You were much less creepy than I thought you would be. It's like, okay.
It seems to be the common theme when you do these photo shoots every once in a while. So it's like, hey, you're not creepy as I thought.
Well, it's not like she was saying it to be mean, and I can off-site so I can take photos.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm just the guy that's always holding up my hands, making sure everyone can see where they are.
Caught your eye during that weekend?
A couple. I took photos of one young lady dressed up as she costume in general.
Mm-hmm.
I ran into Chris M., who's very big in the Southern California circuit. He likes to do a lot of Captain America and know very well. Rachel and Caitlin, who like to do Marvel and DC characters a lot. And, I don't set of cards of individuals I ran into over the course of the weekend. I have put up our WonderCon gallery. I have not had the time to on trying to catch up on a few back reports. This whole having a day job and a life by night can be a little bit.
So for those listening, the WonderCon gallery is live on our website right now. You can go check it out. Sharon's promotion.
But I did go to talk about that later.
Okay, for sure. In terms of, let's see, in terms of any,
I caught a couple. That was something else that LA did, because they were very serious this weekend. They held all their big panels and reveals in it, which is super cool. Unfortunately, I was not able to enter it because most of the time and of course the one day I was thinking, okay, so halfway through the day I will set aside my camera and I'll go see a screening of something in the Microsoft Theater. Frick!
Decisions.
I know. I spent a little while grappling with that one. Let me see. I went to Brian in Civil War.
Sick.
And he didn't drop a whole lot of details, but he did show a lot of panels of books he's currently working on, Invincible Iron Man, the cover to Civil War 2, number 2, that involves a character that's never been in the Civil War.
Awesome. The new one?
No, the Bruce Banner one.
What? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm interested.
He's been offline.
Interesting.
And he talked a little bit about everything, and he had a Q&A session, which I was the very first question on, which after I was so embarrassed about trying to pressure him the day before, after he was done with the panel, I walked up with my camera to just get me walking up and immediately stuck out his hand and shook it.
Oh.
So I got completely derailed.
Funny. They're using that Nokia Theater for some of the panels, because that building is awesome and is big enough to hold whatever they wanted to do with it. Like there was a size limit, I guess.
Yeah, Microsoft Theater, unless you have a specific press access, which is some kind of special entrance in the bay, cannot have cameras with detachable lenses. That is a no-no. The reasons why, I don't know. Okay. God forbid
I guess maybe, I don't know. Maybe they're a fear of a video recording. I don't know.
I'm not going to speculate about.
Tell me.
It's a brand new program that they're supposed to be debuting at Comic-Con this year, but WonderCon got to serve as the test. Now seems to be springing for the new RFID chips, radio frequency ID chips, inside their plastic badges. And the idea is that at WonderCon, that might be different at Comic-Con. They may place them at the front doors instead. But, when you're headed into the dealer's hall or when you're heading into funded supermarkets and tap your badge at them, when the light comes up green and it beeps, you're free to go. If it doesn't beep, they immediately... this is to stop several things. This is supposed to stop badge counterfeiting, and it's also supposed to stop hot swapping in the butt at most conventions. When two people with badges enter a particular area, then one person exits that area with both badges, and so you can get more people in that way. This would stop that, because I'm sure everybody would ask why, when you're tagging out of the area, see what I mean? If you don't scan out, you won't be able to scan into the next area.
I wonder if this was the same system that, I want to say a similar process, because they had like these little I won't say bracelets, but like they have like these things you would scan in as you enter. Ask our convention reporter about that, but no, that's interesting. How generally, how was that process?
It's not a process that works terrifically at LA, simply because LA is terrible at watching most of its doors. There's so many ways in and out, but they did doors at the LA at the dealer's hall, so you had to scan in and out to get through there. They blocked off the ends of the areas where out of there as well.
Okay. What do you think? What do you think of this kind of test of this new method? Do you think it
doesn't really hold up anything at all? Comic-Con, I'm a little of staff people watching just about every conceivable entrance and exit in that building, so setting up scanners there would probably be much simpler than it would be at the LA. Although Comic-Con has much greater foot traffic, so it might hold them up a little bit if you have to have everybody line up and scan in instead of just be.
Okay. Okay. I'm very curious to see where they go with this. If it's something that they might, I'm kind of very curious to see how it goes. And because here's my thing. If it goes well, and say that if it's a huge success, I'm kind of curious what what is the cost to do this? And I'm thinking, like, would other conventions outside of the Comic Con?
I would think it's very viable. Comic-Con only increased its prices by $5 per day to accommodate the purchase of the extra equipment and the increase of $20 per ticket, which really is not that much to ask when you're already paying $185.
Right, yeah.
Use it because it could really draw down on ghosting in general at conventions.
Okay. Yeah, it could definitely cut down on that for sure, and that's been an issue. I think less so on the comic conventions, and correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, you don't have as many people hanging about comic conventions simply to coast business in the hall, or you at least buy a one-day badge because there's someone there you really seem to want to see. Anime conventions, they hang out, and it seems like not half of them. It seems like a good number of them don't have any badges in general for the convention, but they do take up, and it chokes things down.
Right. Okay.
And that was the other thing I noticed at WonderCon was even though the lobbies were free form, just the dealers, which is typically about 60 to 70,000 people, was not bad at all. Very rarely did it actually feel crowded in there. So free form, whereas Anime Expo itself can feel like you're stuck in the middle of a herd of caribou.
That is true. I wonder if it's so it is not trafficky at all. It kind of makes a question of what if it was a similar ideology in terms of what that could be used for Anime Expo.
Yeah, they were using the West Hall just for specific lineups, so it's not like they were keeping them as conceivably busy as an anime the building. And I discussed it with my wife to make sure I wasn't crazy. She hasn't gone to an Axe in a few years, but she remembers. And she did agree that it felt really the hotel. It really wasn't that bad getting around.
Interesting. Somewhere in the way that WonderCon dungeon much more smoother.
And it's not even like that WonderCon was the only thing going on in the area. The Staples Center had sports games. It may have helped that I think WonderCon spent a little bit of extra money because since they had the Microsoft Theater, they paid the extra money to have Chick Hearn.
That might have helped tremendously. But that's good though. That's some good stuff for sure. Wow. The parts of WonderCon that you experienced. So during your time there, was there or particularly like something that's like you thought, oh wow, that was a cool moment?
It did happen, although I wasn't there because I lined up one and I didn't get in. Let me explain. I lined up at 7:30 in the morning to get in on a special signing by because of the expected crowd. They don't do it by first come first serve. They do it by raffle system. So you have to be lucky enough to pull a ticket out of the bag that has. Waiting in this line, they held a special panel by DC Comics at I believe at Petrie Hall in the West Hall where they debuted happening this fall called Rebirth, which is their realignment of the DC universe. Not another reboot, not another universe. I think the comics a little more similar to the movies, while turning back the clock on certain aspects of some of their characters so that they're more the Flashpoint.
Okay. Huh.
So I learned a lot after the fact about what created side in this event.
Cool. Awesome. Wow. Cool. Listening for a minute.
Yeah, I know. I mean, the one thing I can say I was a little disappointed about, and I asked her about this, was the fact that the current artist in the Black Crafts and like offering graphic novels that she's worked on, but I've noticed that in the solicits post Rebirth there is no Black Canary series. So I asked her for me to do, which was the most pragmatic answer you can give without trying to get yourself fired. But I saw on her face that she wanted to be disregarded, so they can turn back the clock on Black Canary and turn her back into a superhero badass warrior.
Nice, awesome. Good stuff about WonderCon. Was there any of the downsides of WonderCon during your time there? Or something? I'm sorry. Oh, no, I was going to add to it, like, or something that might want to improve upon for next year.
To work for them, and now they're getting ready to move to the former building, which is a bigger building and a more friendly area of Southern California to do this whole groove. If there was any bad thing, I mean, I think the only bad stuff really had to do with the building itself. The convention center staff just true to fire hazard or not. Whoever was trying to run the Marvel gathering did not actually name the time to the gathering until Thursday before the convention, literally the day before the convention, because it took that long for the convention center staff to tell him.
Okay. So for the most part, everything was pretty much good. for WonderCon.
Yeah, they had a couple decent reveals and they held some big panels. They brought their Comic-Con booth with them to WonderCon. I'd like to see more. So they really don't have much incentive to get involved.
Yeah, it's very true. It's very true. Don't they usually show up though for like Comic-Con?
They show up for Comic-Con. Marvel Entertainment, which handles their movies and their Netflix and their TV show. Well, no, their TV shows show up at Expo. They may not show up at all.
Oh, gotcha.
You know,
okay.
Disney is looking to boost the D23 Expo with Marvel. From a fan standpoint, oh.
I mean, it makes sense if you put it that way for sure.
Yeah. And it will be Expo next year?
Cool. Awesome.
No, it's not.
Why?
Well, I mean, obviously that's probably where the Marvel movies panel is going to go. Before San Diego Comic-Con 2017.
Oh, those. Okay.
You know, and some people may say, who cares? It's a Disney because in Marvel Comics. And the other thing is that may cause a bit of a split in the convention crowd. The D23 Expo, those tickets cost about...
It was a high price for D23.
It is. It's a 3-day convention, but last I checked, I think their badges are like $185 if you buy the full weekend, of $160 if you buy a full weekend early. So if you're running on a budget, that means you may have a decision to make.
Either go.
Interested in Disney and Marvel, or are you more interested in the other aspects that Comic-Con has to offer? It's, you know, depending on who you are, that's a coin flip. For Comic-Con is where we'll go.
Definitely.
But if you're one of those people that just pines after Chris Hemsworth dressed up as Thor,
but wow, yeah, that is definitely a hard decision when it comes to that. Wow. But overall thoughts on WonderCon?
I think they pulled off a really good convention. You know, registration had some hiccups that I didn't personally see. It was a place where and make some contacts, and I'm looking forward to it returning to Anaheim because of a combination of they're adding this new arm to it, so they can hold even more panels and more space for people to spread out.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Good.
WonderCon.
Oh yes. How is the third party stuff?
Well, if you're going to bring it up, JW Marriott lobby. Apparently, some people showed up. So did I, but I couldn't figure out who was who. Because just about everybody sitting around the bars was wearing a WonderCon badge. Dinner, so I didn't say anything. I just kind of left. However, that hashtag show, the YouTube channel, they held a mixer at the Library of Hope. Was it Hope or was it Flower? No, I think it was Flower. And oh my God, that was interesting. I don't even drink, and that was anime conventions. When third-party crap goes on, it's usually just a bunch of people sitting around drinking and getting stupid.
Right, yeah.
And I don't mean that to say people who drink are stupid. In this case, it was a bunch of people drinking just to loosen up. They were all just blowing off steam. Nobody was getting drunk, no entertainment, and how good everyone's costume was looking. It was a very coherent, kind of relaxing vibe. And was just came out that weekend. People were discussing whether Marvel movies need to tighten up. People were discussing the latest in comic book trends and storylines.
Who was hosting this?
It was that hashtag show.
That hashtag show. All right.
Yeah, they do interviews during the course of the weekend. Again, the following day, and he was getting set to interview somebody who was running a collectibles booth. Awesome. I got to go talk to John Romita Jr. and his eyes widen like, how in the frick are you doing that by yourself? Because he was setting up a team. You know, I got to go talk to John Romita Jr. You know?
That's awesome. Like, was this?
He almost had that expression of, he's not on the ticket. How did you even know he was here?
That's awesome. Oh, it was hashtag.
That hashtag show. They're on YouTube. They have their own YouTube channel.
Cool. I'm going to go check it out. Awesome. I think that's going to be it for the show.
Not that I can think of. I was checking my calendar, and next up is that would be Anime Expo. After that would be San Diego Comic-Con. The next possibility after that would be Long Beach Comic-Con in September. And then I think I have a con, which we were invited to.
Nice. Awesome. Well, awesome. Thank you again, Jeremy, for joining me to talk everything WonderCon about on the internet.
Well, they'll be able to find me at WrestleMania pretty soon. I'm in the ring versus Christian. No, I'm not. I do a weekly comic book podcast that's on Stitcher and iTunes called The Rolling 20s with 2 or 3 other individuals. We use a chance to discuss or just things in general. We just finished recording a show where we read the first 4 issues of Transformers More Than Meets the Eye by Talking Comics, and instead of waiting until just before the event, next week we're going to discuss how do you prep for San Diego Comic-Con? What does it take?
Ooh.
Prepping for Comic-Con is almost completely different than prepping for just about anything else throughout the year.
I have been to the promised land, and I have entirely different beasts. I like to describe Comic-Con as like a blob. Like, you think there's a subsection of an idea of a plan you didn't figure out until you're there. It's like, holy crap, this thing never stops growing.
Well, let alone, it's the only convention I know of that about 2 weeks for the next one.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Don't wait. Don't think I'll take care of it after the new year. You got to start getting ready.
I do highly suggest.
No, August 1st. September is too late. I mean, shoot.
Yeah, I do highly suggest anybody who has never been or ever wanted to go Comic-Con. Awesome. You can follow me on Twitter at Defective Naruto. You can follow the work that me and Jeremy do on our website at Mission website, as well as on iTunes and Stitcher. That's gonna do it for us. So with that being, that was Jeremy, and this has been another episode of the